Sarah Adina Smith. You directed the first two episodes of Lessons in Chemistry, which is based on a book. How familiar were you with the book before the show?
I was, I had been called about the job and then basically had to speed read the book. And 24 hours later was talking to them about it. So I was familiar, but only because I like crammed it into my brain. But I think that kind of made it even more exciting in a way that it wasn't that I had, over months been slowly falling in love with the book. It was like a fast and furious romance in a way, which I think was a good mindset for this one.
Hmm. So what was like your initial reaction to the book, and then just speaking with like Lee Eisenberg about his vision for the show? How did those two compare?
Um, I guess my reaction was twofold, and again, maybe this was because I was like speed reading over the weekend, and it was like my son's first birthday, and so it was like a lot going on, and so I at first I was like, okay, I can see why this book really has meant so much to a lot of people, and has spoken to a lot of people, and then to be honest, and this is maybe not the most maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but I was kind of like, do we need this series? Was yes, obviously sexism is alive and well. Like I don't mean to debate that, but just do we need this story about a fictional female scientist in the 50s facing discrimination in the workplace? I felt a little bit like, have we seen this story before? And was really just searching for what is the deeper thing that this is about, and really ended up feeling inspired when speaking to Lee Eisenberg and also to Brie Larson, as we were all, I think, looking for that deeper message that wasn't just what the series purports to be on the surface. It's not just a show about sexism. I think that would be kind of like one level and frankly boring. It's really a show that has a much more well-rounded humanity about somebody who has really closed herself off to life in a way, and about these collisions she keeps having with important people in her life that eventually teach her the meaning of life, and which is really about um, the things you can't predict and the things you can't control and the way in which life surprises you for both good and bad. And yeah, that became really beautiful, or that was really beautiful, and talking to Lee, um, and also to Bree, and it made me feel like that was something that I could get really excited about making, and felt like something. It gave me a feeling like there was a magic we could bring to screen, about that would be more than just a translation of the book.
Hmm. Yeah, and she's someone who likes predictability and logic. That's how she
Yeah,
operates, and she has to learn to, you know, like accept surprises in her life and things that she didn't expect. So,
yeah.
but you as the pilot director, you get to set the tone and build the world. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the
Mm-hmm.
opening of the premiere when we follow
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth into Supper at Six, the set, and it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not from her back. You just see her back. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how did was that something you just envisioned, going in? Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of like one of my first feelings and first ideas I brought in when I pitched on this, was that we really wanted to like set up um, the mythology of this character, and also have maximum contrast between this television star that we first meet and the woman who's a lab tech cleaning up broken beakers and serving scientists coffee when we then go back in time. And I really wanted to give the show an exciting energy right away, that sort of would let the audience know they're in good hands and that they're going to be taken somewhere exciting. And I felt like episodes 1 and 2, I really tried to treat like one movie, even though they're two separate episodes. Certainly, when you're block shooting, you shoot them together anyway. But I was really thinking about like, well, what is the movie of episodes 1 and 2, and it's a love story. And I had never really gotten to direct like just a romance. And so that was really new and exciting for me and challenging. And I felt like it was yes, I wanted to have exciting cinema and shots and things that really brought the story to life from a camera point of view. But more than anything, I really wanted to be in service of that love story and tried to make all of my choices in support of character and in support of us getting to be swept away and sort of like falling in love with the two of them as they're falling in love. So that was
Yeah,
my
I
ultimate
love
goal.
that because it really was like a rom-com, the first two episodes. You get
Yeah,
to
totally.
establish Elizabeth and Calvin's they have their meet cute, and then like they like hate each other, quote unquote, initially, and then they come together, and then it also ends in such an abrupt way. And I don't know like how many if you know people are unfamiliar, you know, the material, like how many people are expecting that.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spoilers, but how did you approach, you know, that
hmm
relationship and knowing that it was going to come to an end by the end of the second episode and working with Bree and Lewis Pullman on that?
Well, actually, it was something that Lee and I talked about right away when we
Mhm.
first dove in and started thinking about this, because the scripts were, I should say, like we were working on the scripts as we were shooting. It wasn't the kind of TV where like all the scripts were done and we're just like executing material. We were really trying to think about like on the fly, like how are we going to, it all came together so fast and furiously that we were really workshopping material and writing as we were going. And it was like, one of the things we talked about was because Calvin's death is in the book, and we just thought about like, well, where should that happen story wise? And Lee felt really strongly it should happen at the end of episode 2, and I just thought that was quite brilliant because we knew that Apple was going to be releasing the first 2 episodes, and then there would be that week where the audience would be grieving with Elizabeth. And we felt that that was actually so important in putting us into the character's shoes in a much more real way. Like, if the story of 1 and 2 is the story of life surprising you in the most beautiful way, and really sweeping you off your feet, the end of episode 2 is the exact opposite of that. How, one wrong turn and life can surprise you in the most heartbreaking way. And for a show that really is about the the highs and lows of surprise, and surprise as the perhaps fundamental force of life itself. And Elizabeth as a scientist who's in pursuit of the origins of life and abiogenesis, and is asking like, what is the origins of life? um, uh, for it to be, sort of the implicit message of this is that, perhaps um, by accident or by design, uh, uh, life is surprise and what you can expect, and whether that's random or not, the way in which you continue to survive and react to the consequences of those surprises is what makes your life meaningful. So again, it was almost like thinking in maximum emotional contrast, I suppose, and thinking about, again, how can we fall in love as deeply as possible so that it hurts as much as possible when that's suddenly ripped away.
Hmm. It's also interesting because like the episode is bookended by these two traumatic episodes in her life. Because in the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
the episode, we see the flashback to her sexual
Mm-hmm.
assaults. So
Mm-hmm.
what was it like approaching that material? Because we saw flashes of that in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode. So what did you guys discuss about how
Mm-hmm.
much to show and share of the audience beforehand before showing the whole scene in episode two?
Mm-hmm. Um, this was something we thought very carefully about. I and everybody, we felt like when it comes to traumatic events, and in particular sexual assault, it's really, we feel there's a great responsibility not to show that just because you're trying to give your character a backstory, or like almost as like a substitute for an interesting character. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes I feel like we can like tack on trauma as if that's going to therefore make our character well-rounded, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted it to feel really earned. And I feel as a director, when portraying that, um, it should feel awful. If we're going to do it, it should make you feel awful. It shouldn't, I didn't want to sugarcoat it or make it easy. So a lot of my shot choices were just about uh, letting it be as horrible as it was for her, but also the most hurtful thing about that episode in Elizabeth's life is the betrayal. Yes, there's a physical assault, but she was betrayed by someone she trusted. And that, in a way, was probably the most damaging thing for her.
It
And so we
damaged her
really,
career. Yeah. So.
yes, exactly. Someone that she was collaborating with and felt like she had an intellectual equal, and that they were, sparring partners when it came to science and inquiry. And so it was really important for me to then, again, set up that relationship of trust, so that when the betrayal comes, we again feel like we're in the character's shoes, and feel hurt the way she was hurt.
Yeah. And it's like a great juxtaposition with Calvin, because it's like she can trust this
Yeah.
person she's working with now, but then he gets ripped from her life.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And it
Mhm.
also helps us understand why, even though she feels these sparks with him in episodes 1 and 2, why she has her guard up. Because, like, what I think is so special about Calvin and Elizabeth's relationship is that they intellectually turn each other on as well as physically. And so you're seeing them, there's a scene in episode 2 where they're jamming together on some science, and it's like, that's what leads to sex, and that's the turn on. And so you can see why she has all these guards up about allowing herself to go there, given that, this other person in her life who she had no sexual feelings for, but had this intellectual relationship with, when that turned so dangerous and so bad for her and hurt her career so badly. You can understand why it takes her, takes a lot of time for her to realize she actually can trust Calvin. And then, as you said, as you pointed out very astutely, that then when she's hurt more than she's ever been hurt in her life before, when he's ripped away, how could she possibly recover from that and learn to love again, really is the story of the series.
Yeah,
In
sure.
some, and so it's weird, but in a way, like, the end of episode 2 is like the inciting incident for
It is, it's true, because you
yeah,
think they're gonna, he's gonna be in her life forever, and then it's not, it's
yeah,
a whole different path for her too without him. But then she has, new friendships with Harriet and everything. So
yes,
well,
she has other love stories. She
yeah,
has that's what we always thought about it. Lee and I talked about how there's also this like myth in our culture that like the one true love story, is the one, your
it's
soulmate. That's what
romantic,
you.
but you can have
Yes.
platonic love
No, it's
stories.
about community. Exactly. It's about this entire constellation of love stories with her daughter, with her dog, with her friends. It's like it becomes so much more rich than that.
Yeah. I do have to ask about 6:30 last. You have
Yeah,
to close on 6:30. What was it like
sure.
casting 6:30? Who's
Sure.
the star of episode 3?
Yeah. Well, we really wanted to cast the best actor for the role.
Obviously.
Yes. And Gus, 630's name, was like incredibly expressive and had such depth to his eyes. We were like well aware that like the cockapoo was not like a thing in the 1950s, but one thing we thought was interesting was he would have just been seen as a mutt on the street. It wasn't like, there were stray dogs then as there were now, and he would have been seen as like an undesirable type of dog back then. And we just thought that was really sweet, how like, the cuddly dog that we all
Which
love and
makes
is
it
so
even more
popular
hilarious that he was a
today.
military dog. So,
Yeah, well, then they were picking him because this is not my episode 3, but they, were picking these mutts off the street to do the dirty work in the military training because they thought they were disposable because they weren't purebreds.
mhm. And look at him now, taken in
Look
by
at him
Elizabeth
now.
Bennet,
Now he's a star.
a
Yeah.
star. Well, Sarah, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations again on the show and your DJ nomination.
Thank you so much for your interest. Thank you so much.